Now we have finished creating the code to update the number of cars. Next, let's consider the time to click the add button in front of the number of dolls. At this time, the number of dolls should be added one by one. I click on UI controls and drag an on-event code block. Let's select the button we want from here. I selected button add B. Let's click here. Next, we need to read the records in the table we created. For that, a read record code block under data is dragged here. Let's give the name of the table here as Toys Collection in inverted commas. After reading the data in the table, we need to find the record with the string value assigned in the US variable in the name column. The doll column of the record needs to be updated. Here, it needs to be given as name :US in curly brackets in the code block in front of the table name. But since there is no code block that matches it, we will have to type this part. I click on this show text button. The code we need is in the 38th line. Next, let's type as name :US in these curly brackets. Now, click again on those show blocks. Since the for loop and the console log code block in this read record code blocks are not needed for our code, let's remove that part. I click on this code block and drag it to the place where it is said clear below. Before updating the record in the table, let's create a variable name temp to assign the ID of the record related to the selected child as well as the values required for the column name, cars and dolls. Let's click variables and drag a varx equal code block into this read records code block. Temp is given here. Brackets should be provided to the right side of the equal sign. I click on show text again and give a pair of brackets to the right side of the equal sign in the 30th line. Now click on show blocks. Next, the ID of this record should be assigned in the temp.id variable. Let's drag an x equal code block under variables here. Since there is no code blocks to create the code as we need to type and prepare this part as well. Because of that, let's click on show text again. Here, instead of x, I type as temp.id. Let's give as within brackets records box bracket 0.id to the right side of the equal sign. Now let's click on the show blocks again. Yes, the code blocks have been created as per our requirements. Currently, the name stored in the US variable needs to be assigned to the temp.name variable. For that, let's drag an x equal code block under variables again. We need to type and prepare this part as well, so let's click on show text again. Here, instead of x, I give temp.name and let's give US on the right side of the equal sign. Now, let's click on show block again. Okay, now let's add 1 to the number of dolls in this record and update the record. Click variables again and drag an x equal code block like this. A code block with the plus sign under map is dragged to the right side of the equal sign. Now again, let's click on show text and give it as records box bracket 0.doll to the right side of the equal sign instead of x. Let's type here as records box bracket 0.doll and type 1 here. Now the total number of dolls is stored along with the number of newly added dolls in the records box bracket 0.dolls. Next, let's assign the number of dolls in the temp.doll variable and the number of cars in the temp.car variable. Again, I drag two x equal code blocks under variables here. Now, let's click on show text and type the code. The part we want to create is in the 43rd and 44th line. It is given as temp.doll to the left side from the equal sign and as records box bracket 0.doll to the right side in the 43rd line. It is given as temp.car to the left side of the equal sign instead of x and as within brackets records box bracket 0.car to the left side. Okay, now the table needs to be updated with the new values assigned to the temp variable added to this record. For that, let's drag an update record code block in the data section like this. Here, the name of the table is given in inverted commas as Toys Collection. The ID, name and Bob code block in front is removed and given as tempt. Now, if this record is successfully updated, the number of dolls in label D in front of the doll on the display screen should change. The total number of existing dolls along with the newly added number of dolls have been assigned in records box bracket 0.dolls variable. Let's give the value assigned to this variable as the text of label D. Now, we will drag an if code here and type success here. For that, I drag a set text code block under UI controls into this update record code block. Click on this arrow and select the name of the desired label called label D. It needs to be given as records box bracket 0.doll here. This part cannot be created by a code. We will have to type it. Let's click on show text again. Let's remove the part called text along with the inverted commas in the 47th line and type here as within brackets records box bracket 0.doll and give on show blocks again. Okay, by now we have finished creating the code needed to update the number of cars as well as the number of dolls.